Hello, all my beautiful people. How are you doing today? Welcome to the alternate point of view. Welcome if you are new. Welcome back if you are an OG and have been watching this channel for a while now. Thank you so much for your patience. We did a live the other day on the tattoo-faced serial strangler in Cape Coral, Florida. And my name is Tracy Lee, and we are going to continue finishing up this trial. I apologize for not being able to continue doing lives on this trial. However, we are at the point of a verdict already. This trial went by really, really fast because the evidence was just too big to fail, I guess. It took 5 years for this to go to trial. This happened in 2019. So finally, justice has been served to Wade Wilson and for the families of the two women who he horrifically killed in 2019. If you don't know the details of this case, let's do a quick rundown because some of you were not on the live on Monday. So let's talk about who in the world Wade Wilson is. Wade Wilson is a not good person. He met a woman, Christine, at a club called the Buddha in 2019, along with her best friend and another gentleman, and they closed down the bar. He introduced himself as someone different. He introduced himself as JR. Sorry. And he took these two women home to Jason's house, the other gentleman that he was with, but he really wasn't with this guy. He just met him at the bar as well. So he was a pretty smooth talker, apparently. He had started out the night with his at the time girlfriend, and she went home early, left her car at the bar because she thought she would come pick it up later. It was her vehicle, as it turns out, her Dodge Hellcat, which is pretty cool. It was a stick shift. She knew Wade couldn't drive it, so she didn't have any fear of him taking it. So she thought she'd come back and get it later. Unfortunately, Jason, the guy that Wade met, knew how to drive a stick shift, and they drove that car to Jason's house with the two ladies that they had just met. And very quickly, Wade, JR, had a connection with Christine, and they hooked up, and then later left Jason's house in an Uber because, well, it turns out Wade didn't know how to drive a stick shift, and the car was left at Jason's house. They take the Uber to Christine's house, and Christine's friend says she has to go home. She's got to get her kid to school. It's been a very late night into the wee hours of the morning at this point, and she asks her friend Christine, "Do you feel okay with this guy?" And she says, "Oh yeah, I feel fine." She leaves her friend with Wade, and the next day, her friend is no longer alive. And what this guy does to her is so awful that you just can't fathom that you would leave your friend. We've all done it, right? We've all gone out, we've all got drunk, we've all made bad decisions, we've all, but to be home at your house and you're hanging out with someone, you think the night is ending, the day, whatever, and then to find out that this guy is just the description of what the medical examiner said that he did to her was so horrific. She had injuries that were so bad to her main organs of her body, to her liver, to her bladder, to her lungs, to areas of her body that he basically, you could tell, used her beautiful this beautiful person as a punching bag. And I'm going to show you a picture of her because she is just was a very beautiful person. And what was so sad about the description of Christine was they didn't really talk about her as, and didn't really even mention her name a whole lot in the trial. They really just talked about, you know, and it's sad for her friends and her family. And her friend, when she testified, had to look at these pictures of her, and it was sad because she wasn't mentioned as a person, and she was really just mentioned as, what was done to her. And I feel badly because that's not at all how you want to be remembered. Be remembered as someone who uh, was an actual human being. And so I want to be sure that she is remembered as someone who was looked at as the person that she was. And she was a very pretty person. She was a very pretty woman. She was attractive, and she she should be remembered as the person that she is and was. And so to see her, this person, Christine, she is was a beautiful blonde uh bombshell to me. I mean, my gosh, she was so pretty. Um, this is Christine, beautiful blonde. Uh, but the way he left her was absolutely awful. Um, he left her in a way that was wrapped in a mattress pad, in a blanket, in clothing, in a bra, a swimsuit top. Um, he left her in a way that she wouldn't be able to be found. I guess he tried to drag her body out of the house, but he couldn't get her out, so he just left her. Um, so he ended up strangling her to death after using her body as, like I said, a punching bag. Um, that that is not at all what you want to find your friend. And I know her friend had to feel absolute guilt for leaving her there with this guy that, you know, pretty much beat her to death and then left her alone in the house, um, uh, by herself. So I feel that she was kind of forgotten as far as the person that she was. Um, so I feel like she was left out. That both of the women on in the that were the victims of this man were kind of forgotten as people. They were talked about by the people that they uh, kind of their friends, but they were left out as far as being people because they were so busy uh, kind of uh, being remembered as people. They were so wanting to talk about the injuries and the things that he did to them that they forgot that they were actual people in this scenario. And Christine and Diane is on the right, that this is who they forgot to remember in all the grand scheme of things. And instead, they really focused a lot on Wade Wilson and uh, the horrific person that he was. And I really hated that in this entire trial. So when we're talking about Christine and Diane, Christine looks like a very beautiful person. Diane, it looks like a very beautiful, sweet person. She was literally just walking down the sidewalk in front of a school, no less. So after Wade Wilson is done with what he did to Christine, and he steals her car and her phone, he goes to his girlfriend's job where she is just trying to get her car back, her keys, and he commences to beating her. He has no shirt on, no shoes on. He's just wearing sweatpants and he's covered in blood. And he goes there and he is violent with her, abuses her, tries to drag her into this Nissan Versa that belonged to Christine. And he drags her up these stairs. He's trying to throw her off the stairs. He's really, again, on another rampage, trying to kill her as well. And luckily for her, she has people that are in other businesses that hear this going on, and they're calling 911. They open their business doors and get her attention and scare him off long enough for her to be able to run and get into their building and lock the door, and he takes off. So she was saved, but then he gets to the road and he finds poor Diane, who is walking down the road from the school, and he gets her into the car and he commences to just taking out his rage on her and beating her and injuring her the same way he injures Christine. And then after he does that, he, in his words, says he wants to turn her into spaghetti, which is the most awful phrase. I can't even believe that a human being could say such a thing. But that's what he does to her, basically. He runs her over so many times that he wants to make her unrecognizable. Like, what kind of person is this? And it makes one wonder. And I would really like to hear any psychologist or psychiatrist or any clinical doctors that has, a degree in this type of psychology, the mind, the brain, that could determine, what in the world what is this kind of person that makes this kind of person do this? And do you believe this is the first time that this person did this? Because I don't believe this is his first time, or what builds up to this type of behavior, because this is 2 women, almost 3 in one day that he does this. Is there a button that was pushed? Is there a switch that was flipped? What happened that made this man do this, that he felt that he needed to get out this much anger and rage? Or is there a trail? Is there something else? Are there other women? I'm very, very curious to know who else is there out there, because he's been in prison for 5 years. So what happened before 2019? And just so you know, at the end of this trial, we had people, loved ones, come up and testify. The trial went very quickly because the defense didn't really do a whole lot. They didn't really ask a lot of questions, or they didn't put up any defense. What got him actually captured was his birth father. Not They said it was his father, but it was his birth father. Wade Wilson was adopted. He was born to birth parents who were only in their preteens, 13 and 14 years old. His birth father was 14. His birth mother was only 13. So they were not able to raise a child, clearly. So they did place their son, Wade, for adoption to a family that went to their church. And Wade was raised by that family. And Wade did find out later who his birth parents were. He reached out. He wanted a relationship with his birth father, but really the relationship that he wanted was really more for, like, what can you give me? He asked for money all the time, that type of thing. So I'm not really sure if Wade just kind of was looking for more of, like, you didn't keep me, so what can you give me now type of thing. So Not all adoption, by the way. I'm a very huge open adoption advocate. So I will just say that children of adoption are not in not all are in a bad situation. So I'm not sure what type of adoption life he had or what type of parenting he had, but apparently there was something missed because he did not turn out to be a good person. So he did reach out to have a relationship with his father. He did call his father after all of this happened, and he did brag about it to his father. So that kind of connected some dots for me when his father got up on the stand and his father did, his birth father, when his birth father got on the stand and his birth father was the one who turned him into the police, because he did say that he bragged to his father about the things he did to these women, and he wanted his birth father to be proud of him. So I'm kind of wondering if that had some psychological thing with him, with his birth father, was like, "Ooh, look what I did. Aren't you proud of me? Don't you see what I did?" So I wonder if there are any doctors out there, any psyche doctors out there. Is that something that possibly he was looking for, was approval from his birth father? Possibly something that he was, trying to find? I just wonder if that is something that he thought might bring him closer to his birth father for some wild and crazy reason. I'm not really sure. But whatever the reason that he did this, he was not tattoo faced at the time that he met Christine at this bar. He had tattoos, but not like he does on his face now. He's been getting these new tattoos in prison. He chose not to cover his tattoos for the trial. He had the option to cover his tattoos for the trial, but he chose not to. But I did watch him during the trial, and I did watch his eyes light up. He was very proud of what he did. He never turned his face away from the autopsy pictures. He would look at them. He would look at the jury. He wanted to see their reaction to what he had done. He looked at the female medical examiner who did Christine's autopsy. The male medical examiner, he wasn't really paying as much attention to, but he really did hang on every word of the female medical examiner. And he did look at the jury because he really did want to see their reaction. He did also kind of relish in Christine's best friend and how her reactions were, because he, not to say that he really knew her, but he kind of did because he spent the whole night with her. So I believe he really liked getting that female reaction. He didn't really care too much about the men. I don't think he really cared about them too much, but he did really look at the pictures, and he liked to see the pictures of what he did. And he did look at the jury. He looked at the pictures and he looked at the jury. So he really was enjoying what he was doing, just like his eyes, because you couldn't look at his mouth because he had the Joker style tattoo around his mouth. So you couldn't pay attention to his mouth because that always looked like he was smiling. So you had to pay attention to his eyes and the way they kind of lit up a little bit. And I did look at the reaction when his birth father, got up on the stand. I did want to see if he would react to his birth father at all, but he really didn't, I want to say, have a whole lot of reaction to him, because I think he was more disappointed in his birth father because his birth father didn't have the same glee that he had in his work, I guess you could say. And it made more sense when I realized that that wasn't the man who raised him, that he didn't get the reaction out of his birth father that he wanted. So at the end of the day, Wade Wilson was found guilty. I don't want to give more presentation or more acknowledgement to Wade Wilson in this video, because I feel like he was given too much attention in the trial and not enough attention was given to these two beautiful ladies here on this screen. I feel that Christine and Diane were not humanized enough. I feel that they were not given, their names were not mentioned enough. So I hope that the families and their friends, I hope and pray that Christine's best friend does not feel the guilt that I'm sure she is feeling. I could feel it on the stand when she was testifying. I hope that Diane's fiance has found a way to move on and live each day. I just cannot imagine the absolute horror that these women went through. And I pray for their families. I pray for them. It's hard to say that I would pray for Wade Wilson, but I really feel like he is evil incarnate. I don't know any other way to look at that man. I don't know if there's a way for him to find God. So, but he was found guilty. So I want to focus on the two beautiful women that their lives were snuffed out in the worst possible way. And I hope that everyone looks at these two beautiful women and prays that their families feel finally, after 5 long, long years, that they can know that they are in heaven and God is with them, and God took time, but he finally gave them an answer. So thank you so much. Kamsahamnida. I appreciate each and every one of you. Please check out becoming a member on this channel. I hope that you do. Please share, like, and subscribe. I appreciate you all so, so, so much. I will see you in the next video.